Thank you so much for joining me today on Just Praise Him Radio. I'm your host, Glenda Lomax, and my job is to inspire you to a closer walk with Christ. Now here's the show. Hello, believers. Welcome to the Just Praise Him radio program. I'm your host, Glenda Lomax, and the title of my message today is Preparing for the War to Come. And I have a special guest on the show for the very first time, my good friend, Manyrounds. Manyrounds, thank you for coming to the show and taking your time to share your knowledge with the people.
You're welcome, Glenda, and it's an honor. And I had a feeling that we should say a prayer before we start this whole thing. So, Father God, we'd like to thank you for the day, and thank you for this opportunity to reach out and help some folks, give them some food for thought, and show them a few things they can do to help prepare for what's coming, and understand the things that you have put in your word to help them as well. Amen.
Okay. Today we're going to attempt to answer what so many of you have emailed me about, asking for years now. I needed to find someone who actually knew the answers to the questions. Manyrounds, tell us about your qualifications and your credentials so that people will understand.
Well, I was in the United States military for quite some time. I experienced a lot of things in that time I spent there. And the experiences that I received were kind of a grooming, you might say. The Lord, He set me on a course that was teaching me a lot of different things for this time, I believe. And I was just unwittingly, unknowingly kind of getting this training the whole time I was in. So
I think He does that with a lot of us. Yeah. Now, you have dreams and dream visions that come true, and you've had many dreams and dream visions about the end times and things that are coming for many years now. And you sometimes paint paintings of what you see. Describe to us the dream vision you had last Friday night about a devastating earthquake on the West Coast, and tell us what you saw and experienced in this dream vision. And were you not in California also at the time of the Northridge earthquake?
Yes, I was. The dream I had the other night, I was on a residential street in the Los Angeles area, and I was outside. I don't know why. It was nighttime. I was in the middle of the street, and it was dark. It was probably late at night. Late evening or early morning, I'm not sure which. And I just was standing there, and I wanted to get back to someone I care about. And the ground started to move. It was moving so violently that I actually couldn't walk. And I heard screams coming out of houses that were all around me. I was sort of at an intersection, so there were houses to my left, to my right, and behind me. And the screams were, some were saying, "Earthquake, earthquake." I could hear women screaming more readily than the men, but I could hear men yelling as well. And then I woke up, but the ground was moving pretty good. It was heaving back and forth, and it's hard to explain but it's like you're really there and you're really experiencing it.
That's a dream vision. Tell us about the Northridge earthquake, because that was some years ago, but I understand you were in California at that time.
Yes, I was. I I came home late at night, and I wasn't alone, but I'd had an argument, I'd say, with my wife, and it had to do with something I sensed. I felt something coming, and she, at the time, she just wasn't having it, and
she didn't believe in the dreams or the visions.
No, she was kind of reluctant to receive it, you might say. So I just said, okay, fine, whatever. Well, she had all the kids in bed with her, and so I came home late anyway, so I just ended up on the couch. And that night, fortunately, I was pretty much fully dressed. I took my boots off and just laid on the couch, and we had a small puppy at the time. And the puppy was acting a little out of the ordinary. It wanted in, it wanted out, it wanted in, it wanted out. And so that kind of confirmed in my mind that there was something not right. And I knew that animals have, they sense things, they sense things a lot more readily than we do. So I was paying attention to it. And anyway, I ended up falling asleep with the puppy right near me. And the next thing I know, it was like being on the end of a jackhammer. I'd been through a quake before in the Sylmar quake, which was a little further north than Northridge.
I don't remember that.
But it was a violent quake too, but it was more of a side to side kind of emotion.
That's the kind I've experienced.
Yeah,
side to side.
And this one was side to side as well, but it was more of an up and down.
So some of them go side to side, some of them go more like the jackhammer.
Well, I think it just depends on where you are in relationship to the terrain and also the epicenter.
Okay.
And in this particular instance, we were a lot closer to the epicenter. And I think it came out to be a 6.4 or something like that. But let me tell you what, it felt more like a 7.4.
6 is way more than I've ever been through.
I was actually kind of surprised at the seismic reading that they were putting out on the news, because from where I was sitting, it felt a whole lot worse than that.
More,
yeah, because I'd been through a 6.3 or 4 back in 71. But this was different. It was more of a jackhammer kind of an effect, and
it would be unsettling.
Well, it was difficult to get up. I could get up, and I did get up off the couch, and we had in the hallway, we had like a center divider thing with shelves. Mm-hmm. So there was an upright piece of lumber, that was part of it. And I was able to put my hand on that and grab it and swing myself and get my momentum going down the hallway. And being fully dressed, I worked in the construction trade, so I always had a flashlight on me, a small mini mag.
Thank goodness.
Yeah, because it really came in handy, because when this happened, it was pitch black, and during the course of the event, the power had gone out. So I was able to see what I was doing when I was rolling down the hallway, bouncing off the bulkheads, trying to get down the hallway to my kids, and wife. And I was, because there was glass flying. We had pictures on the wall, like most people do, with glass, which I will not do again. But because by the time I got to the hallway, the end of the hallway, and where everyone was, the door was jammed. I couldn't get in it. So I had to basically muscle it off the hinges. Your adrenaline's up, and
wow.
And I just pulled it right off the hinges. And
that's one way to get a door open.
Well, what happened was the dresser had fallen inside the bedroom, and it was wedged against the door. So I had to basically slam my shoulder into the door by the hinges to kick the hinges loose. And it all happened so fast.
I never thought about doors jamming and something like that.
Yeah, well, with the dresser, we had a TV on top of the dresser. The TVs fell on the bed and bounced, and it was a pretty good-sized TV. It was
That was back when TVs were big.
TVs were big and heavy, yeah. Yeah. And fortunately, it missed everybody that was in the bed. It just bounced on the edge of the bed and then fell on the floor. And then in the process, the dresser fell over and got in front of the door. So not ever having any... premonition this was going to happen before all that too much, or thinking too much about it. We had the bedroom arranged in kind of a dangerous way. you know. And so that would be something to think about is how your living spaces are arranged.
What a good idea.
Because it can become a problem later, you know, especially with things heaving around.
I'm only like 80 miles from the New Madrid, the end of the New Madrid fault. And so, you know, I never thought about that. Never thought about that.
Well, after this all happened, I ended up bolting a lot of things to the wall.
That's actually a good idea.
I used turnbuckles and eye bolts, and I found studs and sunk some serious hardware. I went to the hardware store and spent about $100.
Wow.
And then came back and started putting it all in the house. And it took me like 3 days, but I got it to the point where I was satisfied with it. But there are some things you can do beforehand, you know, to prepare for these kind of things. And I learned a few lessons on that. I mean, I had been in the military for quite a while when this all happened, but there's nothing like actually experiencing something to teach you, you know, some tidbits of information that might save your life later or save others.
Yeah.
So I got down the hallway and I was able to carry people out into the front yard. Now it was pitch black. I mean, the power was out. There was something running down the gutter, whether it was a broken water line or sewage, or I don't know what it was exactly because I couldn't see it too good, but I knew there was something running down the gutter. And that was kind of interesting. And off in the distance, there was a glow of light, but it was not from electricity. It was from a fire because one of the houses...
broken gas lines?
A gas line had broken in the street, and a guy's car had stalled right above it where the crack was. Wow. And so in the earthquake, it stalled. I guess, you know, somehow the carburetor malfunctioned or whatever. But so he's sitting there trying to crank it over with his starter, and the sparks ignited the gas.
Oh my gosh.
And caught his car on fire. He got out of the car and he walked to a hospital. He was okay. He was burned in a few places, but he was all right. But somehow in the process of that, another house nearby caught on fire. So what I was seeing was the glow from that house. And there were little pockets of glowing, you know, in intermittent spots throughout the perimeter of where I was looking, which was really, in a way, it did provide some light to the whole thing. But I had my flashlight anyway, so. But it was just weird. It was there were...
that would feel kind of surreal.
Yeah, by the time I got everybody out of the house, maybe 15 minutes had passed or 10 minutes or something like that. It's kind of hard to gauge time when all this stuff is going on, but it was starting to get a little lighter because it happened, I think, at 4:30 in the morning.
Oh.
So it was pitch black, but by 5 it started to lighten up. The first light was coming over the ridge. But I remember seeing animals, dogs mostly, rolling around free, you know, lots of dogs. Oh. And because all the walls in the whole neighborhood had fallen down.
So the dogs had been like, Jay, we're free.
So the dogs were running around, and they were all spooked, and they didn't know what the heck was going on. I remember tying up it was a rather large dog. It was a shepherd or a Rottweiler or something, and I tied him up to a bumper of a car so that later on his owner could come by and find him. But there was just a lot, and that's another thing to keep in mind is in the event of something like this happening, there's going to be a lot of animals. Like, how many animals are in L.A.? How many dogs are in Los Angeles or San Francisco or Boston or Philadelphia or wherever? Yeah. Everybody's got a dog, and in a large event like that, you're going to have these dogs running around, and if they're not being fed regularly, they're going to start getting hungry, and they end up packing. Yeah. And I've heard that there's nothing worse than a pack of dogs, you know.
It'd be pretty hard to overcome.
Yeah. So that'd be something to think about. So in your preps, you'd want to have something with you that might repel such beasties running around trying to find some food. So, there's in all of these events, there's always a little silver lining. There's always something to learn from them.
Absolutely.
And there's been a lot of people that have gone through a lot of different disasters, especially in the last 20 years or so, that are a wealth of knowledge about how they dealt with it, how they survived it, wars that they've gone through. Some of the civilians that have lived in places like Syria or Lebanon or Iraq, Afghanistan, places like that. They're out there on the web. You can learn, you can glean quite a bit of knowledge from these people, and then apply that to your personal plan about what you can do. So. That's
true. Talk to us about fear, because we know fear is going to be a real big element in this.
Fear. I call it the mind killer because it's a thing that will paralyze you. It can keep you from reacting in a way that's productive. I read in a book a long time ago, and it's just something that's true. But the opposite of fear is love. And when you think about how there are these mothers that have miraculously, picked up their car to take their kid out from under their car, or done some other extraordinary event to save their child, and that's out of love, and people have gone to extreme lengths to save a buddy, or they'll throw themselves on a grenade because they care about their buddies, and they don't even think about it, they just do it. Yeah. And that is out of love, and fear didn't even have a chance to get in that to make an appearance. It happened so quick. So, with the Lord, that's what He's about. I mean, when the bottom line is the whole reason that we're here, and He wants to bring His kids home. That's what this is all about, really.
Yeah,
He wants to bring His children home, and He wants them to come home on their own. Yeah. And He loved us so much, right, that He went through all of that for us. So, in that respect, that's what overcomes the fear. So, this all scary stuff that we're about to go through here, and there's no, everybody gets scared, and anybody tells you they don't, well,
they're not telling the truth.
I guess they're not just lying to themselves, but it's scary business. So you have to make positive steps forward to try to alleviate that fear, and just tell that fear monkey to go away.
Yeah.
And the best way to do it is just realize why am I scared? I've got the King of the universe that is watching over me, for one thing. Okay, he created this whole thing, and he's with me wherever I go, and He's teaching me something in the whole exercise. He's working out my faith muscle. So that faith muscle, the stronger I can get it, the less I'm going to be afraid.
That's it.
So when He says, I need you to step out of that boat and start walking, well, okay, let's do this.
It's like ruin for a swim.
Because I love you, Lord, or I love my family, and I want to get as prepared as I can and all that, but I want to. The fear is not of the Lord. Fear is of the devil.
Fear is of the devil.
And he would like us to have scared to death so we wouldn't be able to do anything. And nothing would make him happier, because he just wants to bring down the whole show.
That's it.
Into the pit he's going in.
Because he knows he's running out of time. So,
but he's not. He lost that battle a long time ago. He lost that battle.
Yeah, he did.
You just got to remember that he lost.
In younger years, I can remember when I was a child and a teenager and even a young adult, we didn't worry about being invaded because America was the superpower. But we're not the superpower anymore, are we?
No, we haven't been for some time. We're not nearly as strong as they project on the news and whatnot. And
talk about how the other nations are superior to us in different ways, because I've heard you talk about that before.
Well, they keep their developments pretty close to the vest because it's obvious reasons they don't want us to know what the heck they're doing. And they steal our stuff. They steal our ideas. They steal our technology, and then they improve on it. And they use our money sometimes to do it, which doesn't make any money.
That's just wrong.
Oh, yeah.
So wrong. That's wrong.
But I don't know. There's probably some avenues I shouldn't go down that road on.
Oh, well, don't say anything that's not supposed to be said.
Let's just say they've got a plan, and they've been working on it for a long time, and they're almost to the point of its fruition. They're very patient. This is a long-term plan that they've been doing, and
why would they start planning something so far ahead? Why? Why would they want to invade us? They just don't like
knew
us.
They would never be able to take us face to face or toe to toe, and they would lose a lot of. It would be a no-win for everybody, as far as they're concerned. One of the reasons they're doing this is because they're running out of resources, and that's why they're coming. They're coming to glom our resources from us.
Resources as in food or resources?
Right, as in minerals, food, oil, water.
All resources.
You're going to start seeing a lot more in the aspect of water wars coming on.
Oh, yeah, really? I didn't know that.
People are going to...
Can't survive without water.
Well, people have been working on this for some time as far as making arrangements to secure water for themselves or for their countries or for whatever. And our own government is doing it as well. And
I'm in the right state not to have to worry about that, y'all. Arkansas is all lakes and rivers.
It is now.
Right now.
Later on, they talk about climate change and they talk about global warming and all this other stuff, but I have a feeling that there's something else at foot here, and it's true the climate is going to change, it's going to be affected, and these things are going to happen, but it's not for, I don't think it's for any of the real reasons that they're talking about. They just are using that as a vehicle to kind of control and get control of all the resources that they can while they can. But
okay, explain to us. I've long wondered about this for years now. We all know from prophetic words given not only to myself but to others as far back as George Washington and maybe further about that there is an invasion coming to America by foreign troops because he saw it. You have some intel knowledge about the foreign nations we think could be involved in the coming invasion. There's only so many nations that are big enough to come and invade our soil. I mean, honestly. And I know we've always kind of been on a kind of iffy relationship with Russia, and they're big. And China's not real happy with us either. And North Korea, I don't think they've ever been happy with us. Talk to us about what it would be like to be invaded by these guys, and what are their soldiers like, if you know, or their military strategy? I mean, what are we looking at if they decide to do this tomorrow,
One of the places you can read about this whole thing is in the Bible. And one thing I did learn a long time ago was that the Bible is actually one of the greatest sources of intelligence you can find.
Amen to that.
Because it tells the end from the beginning.
Amen.
And there's just
what happened to other armies that were being attacked by bigger armies. 2 Chronicles 20.
Yeah.
Jehoshaphat.
Or how one young boy could knock out a whole army.
Amen. David and Goliath. That's right.
And anyhow, so there was a fella when I first started, when the Lord had me kind of woke up here, he gave me a dream, and in the dream I saw this attack, and I woke up from that dream. My heart was pumping, and I was out of breath, and I was overseas at the time, and I had half a pack of cigarettes and 3 beers after that. I woke up and I was just like what the heck? Because it was so vivid and it was so detailed.
Oh,
that
those kind are scary. Because that's usually a vision, not a dream.
Yeah, it was. I was there, and I heard stuff going off, and I saw stuff going off, and
is this something that has not happened yet?
No, it has not happened yet.
You want to tell? Can you remember that? I know you can probably remember if it was a vision, but
I was in the dream. I was in California, and I saw a lot of missiles coming in, and I saw a lot of aircraft coming in.
Where would they be coming from in California? Because I'm not familiar.
Well, they were coming from the direction of the coast. My particular position was in.
I mean, could any nation attack us on the West Coast?
Oh yeah. We have highways all over the United States, and they start at the edges of our continent. So all you got to do is find a good beach and drive up and hit the highway and bonsai down the highway. And they can be.
That's the men coming out of the water you saw that time. All the men dressed all in black.
Well, I think
coming out of the water.
I think that was more of an advanced party that might be here already. They're here now.
That's the sleeper cell people. Okay.
Yeah, that was another kind of dream I had. But what I saw these guys dressed in black. I was on a beach. It was dark. The moon was out. I was up from a city, probably about 5 miles from a city. I could see the city off in the distance down the coast, and I saw these guys just coming out of the water. The waves were probably 4 or 5 feet high, 6 feet, and crashing on the beach and then rolling up on the beach. Well, these guys in black were walking up out of the water, and they all started kind of converging onto one spot. And one of them walked right by me, and I just was really quiet, and he just walked right by me. And then I woke up, but I realized that after I woke up and I was like, wow. Okay, and I kind of processed the dream in my mind a little bit. With dreams, sometimes you have a knowing that comes with them.
Oh, yeah.
And the knowing I got was, this is a force that has been coming, and they have been prepping and staging gear and setting up pre-war items that are on somebody's list to get ready to go. So.
Wow.
There's more than one country involved here.
Okay.
I believe that there's probably about 8 or 9 different countries. Yeah, there's quite a few.
Well, there are quite a few.
They're all allied, and they all act like they're not allied together, and they have little squabbles and this and that. But as far as the objective of taking the United States, they're all in perfect harmony with that, and so.
Wow.
Yeah, there was I was looking into prophecy stuff years ago, and I was reading everything I could possibly read about it, and I was going to Christian bookstores and going over to the prophecy section and buying books, and reading everything I could, and I was not too satisfied with what I was reading, because what I was getting from the Lord, these guys were just sort of skirting around the edges of it. They weren't really stepping over the line and realizing what this was really all about. And some of the little rabbit holes that they were going down, I could tell that they were like deceptive. They were not really what God's going to allow to happen here. Because what he was showing me, these guys weren't talking about. And I just thought, gosh, Lord, somebody else out there has to know what I know, or somebody else out there has to see what I see. Or what you're showing me. And so I was still searching, and I went into this Christian bookstore, and I walked in, and I was looking through the prophecy section, and I picked a book out, which I really wasn't too satisfied with. And then I'm standing there, and I'm giving this fellow that I knew for quite some time. I've been coming in and out of there a lot. And so I was giving him my money for the book, and I look over, and I see this book on this shelf, but it's over in the worship section, and it's pinging at me.
Oh.
And it's just sort of pinging at me. And I'm like, what the heck is that, So I walk over there and take a look, and I pick it up, and it's a picture of this guy walking through flames on the cover. And
Dimitri
it's
Duduman.
Through the Fire Without Burning by
Dimitri Duduman.
Right?
Oh, yeah, I've read that. Yeah.
And so I picked it up and I turned it over and I looked at the back of it and it had a little bit of an excerpt from inside the text. And it said, and the angels showed me, this is New York, this is California, this is all these, in one day this is going to burn.
Yeah.
And I knew immediately, right then, this guy knows what I know.
In one day. God's told me that before too. And I found that in, I think it was the book of Revelation, in one day. It's either Revelations or Isaiah, in one day. And I was like...
Yeah, it's in a few different places.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. And so I picked up that book. I put it on the counter. I put the other book away. I bought it. I got in my car. I drove down the street. I pulled over and I read the whole book right there.
Are you serious? The whole book, right?
Because this was like an answer to prayer, big time.
Yeah.
And
this stuff is interesting.
Oh, and so then a week or so later, he had a ministry called Hand of Help.
It still exists.
And he was living not too far away from me. So I thought, gosh, what's to keep me from going down there and meeting him, right?
Oh, that's right. I forgot that you met him.
So I glommed up a whole bunch of stuff because he was sending clothing and food and
back to Romania,
Bibles,
right?
Right back to Romania because at this time he could, because when he left Romania, Ceausescu was in power and he was actually exiled out of the country because they couldn't stop him from smuggling Bibles in. And this guy parked his Bibles in trash cans on his front lawn. And the secret police could not find them.
Nice.
You know, so yeah, so I knew
awesome.
this man. I knew this man knew what I knew, and I wanted to talk with him, and plus I wanted to get a few more of his books because this book was like a piece of gold to me. You know, it was like, gosh, this guy really knows what's up, and so I did. I drove down there, and I called it. I think I called his number. He had this Hand of Help ministry, so I called it and arranged to make sure it was okay to come down whenever I could come down. So I came down. I had a few boxes of some military gear and stuff like that to send over there or whatever. And then I drove up and it was a very humble little apartment. He had a kind of a garage set up in the back. For
do you go to his house or is that where his ministry
No, I
was?
went to his house.
Oh, that's cool.
And I met his wife and I met his daughter and I met his son.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't speak a lot of English. And he wasn't a real big guy or nothing. And kind of slight, but very, his presence was very, you knew you were standing in front of somebody. You know, it was just there. Yeah. And he didn't speak a lot of English, so his son was and his daughter were interpreting for me. And we just sat there, and they offered me a little Mountain Dew or something, and I sat there and asked him some questions, about how that I'd seen some of this. And I told him some of the things that the Lord had showed me and whatnot. And then he said to me, out of the blue, and he said this himself, he said, you're not the first one to come see me. You're not the first intelligence guy to come see me. And
Are you serious?
And I went, I don't even remember if I told him I was in the intel business once. I don't know if I even mentioned
Oh, wow.
that. And so when he said that, I was like, whoa, okay. And I thought, in a way, I was like, I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad somebody else is looking into this besides me. Somebody else in our intelligence community in the United States, hopefully for the good side, is looking into this kind of stuff, because it just made me feel better that hopefully like FBI, CIA, or somebody like that, somebody that good people were looking into these things, because all of this is coming down, and
it's really lonely when you see what you see, and you got nobody to talk to about it.
Yeah.
It's
it's
not a good feeling.
It's rough, but this was back in the early 90s, I think, when I went to go see him. And yeah, so
he's been gone for a while, hasn't he?
Yeah, he was here in this country, I think, for probably 8 years or something like that. 6 or 8 years. But anyway, but it was good to fellowship with somebody else that understood what the heck was going on,
Oh, yeah.
And anyhow, this was before. I never used the internet. I didn't know how to use the internet. I didn't use the computer. I didn't have a laptop. I didn't know any of this stuff, So it wasn't until later, a few years later, that I got led to actually delve into the internet. And I was old school. I used to use pen and paper,
I still use a pen and paper for a lot of stuff. I'm still old school.
Yeah. So, and the computer, it just seemed to me like it just bothered me. It was just like I just didn't trust it, and I didn't really want to get involved with it. But one day the Lord led me to do it, and I was like, okay. So, and then that opened up a whole another gate of other folks that knew what I knew, because I had no idea that there was YouTube, and I had no idea people were making videos.
Me either.
And all this stuff.
Me either for a long time.
And I didn't know. There was a guy that I used to listen to on the radio late night out in the desert. I go out in the desert just to get away from town, to get out there and get some peace in my head. And I just, go shooting and have some coffee or whatever. And I would listen to late night talk radio. Well, there was a fellow named Art Bell that used to have a show back in those days. And I would sit there and sit around a campfire and just listen to him talk about. He talked about a wide range of guests and stuff, and some talked about UFOs, and they talked about supernatural things and this and that, la da. Well, every once in a while, a fellow named Steve Quayle would come on, and Steve Quayle knew what he was talking about, and I knew he knew what he was talking about because I had the same spirit, and I loved it when he came on, especially when I was out there. It was like, oh wow, this is like icing on the cake.
So, you just focus on that.
Yeah, and he talked about a lot of these things that were coming down, this and that, a lot of that stuff that I knew and Dimitri knew and other folks knew. So it was sort of like just it was awesome to hear him talk. And back then I didn't know he was on the internet because I didn't use the internet, but evidently he was, and he had a website and all that stuff, but I didn't know that. So the only time I got to hear him was when he was on late night talk radio, and later on George Norrie would have him on too, and God bless George Norrie and God bless Art Bell for doing that,
I don't think I've never heard
nobody else had the guts to put him on, hardly, Once in a while, maybe out here on the east and stuff, and where there's a lot more down-to-earth folks, and stuff like that, with radio stations that are down-to-earth, or Christian radio stations or Christian broadcasters or whatever. But where I was at, there was nobody else. He was never on anybody else's show.
Wow.
Nothing. It was just George Norrie or Art Bell, or first Art Bell and then George Norrie. But anyhow, it was a blessing. It was just a blessing that was sort of the way the Lord was leading me anyway.
I've never lived any place but in America. I don't understand what happens when, like, if troops come down my street, what is the objective of an invading army? What do they do? Because that's what all of us have asked ourselves and ask each other. What happens if the troops show up? If they land tonight and show up in the morning at our yard?
Well, keep your head down.
Well,
because,
obviously, but
their main mission is going to be to seize the country, okay? To seize geographical locations within our country,
okay,
like airstrips, ports, resources, and things like that they are going to need to bring in the rest of their people.
Plants for steel plants.
Their whole plan is basically just to methodically take over the country, piece by piece. They're not going to do it all in one day. It's going to take them several days or several weeks. I don't know exactly. But
do they come in and take everybody prisoner? Do they kill everybody?
Well, they're going to scare everybody to death first. They're going to bomb. They're going to drop bombs, and that's going to keep everybody's head down, and everybody's adrenaline up, and everybody's going to be scared to death. And that's their whole tactic there, is to just get everybody totally
freaked out,
succumbed, you might say, to the fear, so that it'll make their job easier of going in and taking over.
Softening the target.
Right. They're softening the target. They're loosening up the dirt a little bit. And we're under low echelon warfare right now.
Explain.
The whole pandemic thing, this whole tactic to get everybody used to the idea of obeying, you might say. And, it's just...
Shot across the bow to see how many people will go with the program and how many of us will buck up against it.
It's like, come on, people. Don't you remember? But the problem is they don't because, let's just say the communists have done a good job in prepping the ground. And so you've got schools that don't teach. You've got
we have that.
Leaders that don't lead. You've got...
We have that.
The defanging of our police,
Yep.
I mean, they've basically... turn them into...
Has this happened in history before? Good. Has this happened before?
Oh, yeah. This is...
Because
Hitler used this tactic.
I don't know military history, so that's going to be very interesting.
This is sort of what happened to Europe before World War II, but on steroids. Because now there's the technology that's a lot more, in your face everywhere.
Yeah.
That they can use as a tool.
Well, and they have all the cameras everywhere. They can watch us. And they can watch us through.
As a military op, it is a well thought out, planned op. I mean, it's a good plan on their end. When you look at it, I'm not good like as in...
They're not stupid. They're not stupid. No. They have intelligence. They know what they're doing. Yeah, they're not. If they were stupid, we could beat them easier. But
that's what I'm saying. They've planned this out from a long time ago, and slowly cooking the frog. So.
Yeah.
And they're doing it in the same kind of methodical way. I mean, Hitler had his Gestapo. Well, they're going to bang out some force on us that's going to be doing the same thing they did.
Is that the stormtroopers?
Yeah. That was another dream I had. It was...
If you want, tell us about that. I know they're hard to look at.
This was a long time ago. It was in 2012, I think it was, when I got this. And I don't know if he was president or not at the time, but I guess he would have been.
Obama was president then, I think. Yeah.
So, anyhow, what I was just praying one night, and I saw this, scene, you might say. The Lord uses Star Wars with me sometimes. And what I saw was, the Emperor guy, the guy that Palpatine was his name. That's his name.
I've actually never watched Star Wars.
Well, in Star Wars, there's this guy. He doesn't start out all ugly and everything, because later on in some of the episodes they show him as a senator or something like that in the Republic, right? Well, he does the same kind of. It's very weird. There's a prophetic parallel here, and I don't know if Lucas knew what he was doing about all that, but I think maybe the Lord was in some weird way leading him to do this. But there's this senator guy, Palpatine, who's sort of like the head honcho. He's like the leader of the house or whatever you want to say.
Yeah.
And he is instrumental in trying to, out in the public eye, he's trying to save the Republic. But behind the scenes, he's part of the Sith, and he's the head Sith Lord. He's actually the evil bad guy. He's the whole head of the dark force, or whatever you want to call it. So, and he's recruiting, and he's arranging. He got rid of the whole Senate.
That's
right?
a little too prophetic, because if you've read the visions that I had about the filthy kings, that makes me think of that.
Yeah, well,
because he was the head guy taking. And I heard the words filthy lucre, which I assume is money or riches, and stuffing in his pockets and laughing. And there was all these men, and they were all mired up to their knees in some kind of filth that looked like sewage or something. It was gross.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they're doing. And
when he went into office, he only had a few million. He came out with, $32 or $34 million? It does make you wonder. I don't think the presidency pays that much, does it?
No, I think they make a little over $100,000 a year or something like that.
So I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, but anyway, he was in this vision as this emperor. I mean, he had the hood, everything. And I've seen pictures just like what I saw on the internet of Obama with a hood over him and looking all dark and everything. Well, It looked just like that. It looked
Wow.
exactly like that, except he was standing over a whole assembly of thousands and thousands of stormtroopers that were in front of him. He was like this big, giant, kind of ghosty figure behind him, right?
Wow.
And then behind him was this demonic, gigantic demon with wings, with like a goat head face and all this weird stuff and horns. And I figured, well, that's got to be the devil.
That's the devil.
Right? So, well, anyway, so it was just a really quick flash vision thing. And I heard stormtroopers in place. And this was in 2012.
That was in 2012. We all knew that 2012 was a very important year. We all knew that. I don't know why, but it just was.
So the knowing I got was that a lot of this whole setup is already in place. It's already in place. Wow. They've already got this set up. And they're just going through their procedures to get it all to happen, and they need to accomplish this before they do this and this, and before they do that. So whatever. But yeah, you were asking, the original question was,
what are the objectives of the invading?
Okay, the objectives.
I mean, are they going to come in and kill all of us? Are they going to take us POW?
The first thing, like I said, they're going to scare everybody to death. Yeah. And then they're going to drop in some troops. Some troops are here already. They've got advanced parties here that they're going to prep the ground. They're going to hit certain parts of our infrastructure, shut the power down in some places, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Well, then when they hit the beaches, they're probably not going to invade right away because it's going to be a radioactive bomber.
Oh yeah.
And so they're going to let the dust settle, and then they're going to assess what they've done. They're going to take they're going to have satellites going over and taking pictures, and then they're going to look at them and figure out, okay, this was damaged, this is that, blah blah blah. So they're going to adjust their plan, and then once they get it adjusted and they do a final recon of what all is going on, and they get word from any people they have here, any resources that they have already here, to tell them, okay, well, this area is working, this area is not, this bridge is down, this bridge is up, whatever.
Yeah, bridges are a big deal.
Yeah, and just certain areas that they plan on seizing first, because part of their plan is to seize the airfields that are. Some airfields they're going to use against us. They're going to drive their planes in and disembark a bunch of gear, and then disembark troops, and they'll have a lot of equipment, a lot of vehicles, and this and that set up, and they'll just start a big convoy and just head out from the east to the west, from the west to the east. Any gear they need, they've already brought in, or they're going to bring it, and they know it works, and they've tested it. And they've rehearsed with it. That's one thing they probably have been doing. They've been rehearsing. They've been practicing because once they get here and they leave the line of departure and they land, they have this plan. They're just going to do it. And
it would seem like if they're after our resources, that we would be in the way, other than anybody they could use for anything.
As far as most of us are concerned,
are we just what they call useless eaters?
They're part of their whole plan too is to repopulate this country with their people. They're going to eliminate us.
They could use us for slaves,
and they can. Yeah, they're going to take who they can, probably able-bodied men, and put them to work somewhere, maybe back in their country or back in other countries. They might send them. They have a plan. I mean, they're going to use them where they are going to do the most good. And they're going to probably take all the women and do what they do with women. They're going to make them wives, or they're going to make them slaves, or whatever, or working in areas where they'll probably interview you, ask you what are your gifts, what are your talents, this and that. Okay, we're going to do this with you, and they're going to do that with you. That would be the wise move on their part, is to actually utilize, like, people that are actually operating some of the equipment in this country right now. Yeah. Take them and leave them in charge. That happened back in Israel in the days of Jeremiah. The head soldier I forget his name, something Rabadan or whatever. He took some of the poor people and left them in the land to take care of the vineyards.
That's smart.
And,
That's really smart,
and
because
take care of
otherwise the
farms.
vineyards die and the farms die.
And Nebuchadnezzar was thinking ahead, like, well, we're going to need their resources kept up. We're not going to just totally wipe the whole country out.
That was wise.
So
no doubt they'll do that. And I'm sure they've studied history. I don't know if they've studied biblical history, but I'm sure they've studied history. And if they're after the resources, they're after the food, so they'll be after the farmlands and the grain silos and all that kind of thing. And those do have to be maintained.
Right. And the power plants, this and that, they're probably going to rebuild some of those and rebuild.
Well, that's all we have for y'all this week. But if you'll tune in next week, you can hear part 2 of how to prepare for the coming war in America with special guest Manyrounds. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Just Praise Him Radio. You can contact me by mail at my new address, JPH Inc., Glenda Lomax, P.O. Box 60, Glencoe, Arkansas 72539, or by email at jphtoday@gmail.com. JPH is not affiliated with any nonprofit organization, church, or denomination. Have you ever gone through a time in your life where suddenly it just felt like your whole life was falling apart? I call these experiences the wilderness experiences. Wilderness experiences are a time of great uncertainty and change. There are times when our faith is tried and refined. After many experiences, the Lord spoke to me to write The Wilderness Companion, which is a virtual roadmap through the desert times of your life. Find out why you've been led to the wilderness. Find out what the biggest hindrance is to receiving provision in the wilderness. Find out what the 7 temptations of the wilderness are. Drastically cut the time you spend in the wilderness by learning how to partner with the Lord instead of working against Him. Every Christian needs to read The Wilderness Companion. It's by Glenda Lomax, and it's available on Amazon.com or wingsofprophecy.com. Amazon.com, The Wilderness Companion by Glenda Lomax. What is in store for the once great and mighty nation of America in these end times? What is the living God saying to the people of America now? What could possibly be in store for a nation that once trusted in God, but has changed its path from following in the living God's ways to now removing Him from everything and walking the other way? In the book No Longer Mine, you will find all the messages to America collected in one place in chronological order. No Longer Mine, Messages to an Unrepentant Nation, is now available in print at wingsofprophecy.com in the bookstore tab. Get your copy of No Longer Mine today. Have you heard? The 2016 and 2017 messages have been published in book form. Even those who do not profess a belief in God can see something is amiss in the world around us. What is coming for our world in these last days? What does the Lord want us doing while we're waiting for His glorious reappearance? Time of Reckoning and Soon It Will Be Night each contain approximately 200 prophetic messages and visions from the throne room of God telling what is coming to America and the world in these end times. The Lord has always warned nations when they were headed for destruction. He has always warned His own people. Are we also being warned? Get your copy of Time of Reckoning and Soon It Will Be Night, available now on Amazon.com.